The most important aspect of Green Climate Fund is the resource mobilization. The most important aspect of Green Climate Fund is the resource mobilization. Developed countries contribute to Green Climate Fund in a regular replenishment cycle, and the first contribution was made in the year 2019. Nevertheless, the progress so far is not regular, and in order to fill the gaps, Green Climate Fund plans to arrange funds from different players including private sector's investment. So let me discuss about the Green Climate Fund's role in climate justice. Students, the Green Climate Fund embodies the principle of equity by channelizing funds to countries most vulnerable to climate threats, ensuring they are not left behind in global climate action. So after describing about the Green Climate Fund, let me talk about the climate finance and its type. What is climate finance? Climate finance are the resources that are utilized for mitigation and adaptation of climate change, and they include all types of finances such as private, public, domestic and international. Climate finance involves mobilization of funds related to reducing carbon emissions, building resilience, conservation and protection of biodiversity, guaranteeing sustainable development and offering assistance to exposed societies. Essentially, climate finance can be considered as a cornerstone of global climate action because it has empowered the developing and climate vulnerable countries, and now they can implement projects that were impossible for them without proper financial, technological and institutional support system. The significance of climate finance has grown rapidly over the past decades as the frequency and severity of climate impacts have intensified. Rising temperature, extreme weather events, ecosystem degradation and economic losses have highlighted the urgent need for large-scale investment in low-carbon technology, resilient infrastructure, disaster preparedness, sustainable agriculture and clean energy systems. Students, climate finance therefore not only support environmental protection but also plays a crucial role in achieving long-term development goals such as poverty alleviation and social stability. Many developing countries depend heavily on external funding such as grants, concessional loans and International Climate Fund to meet their national determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. Promotion of equity and advancing climate justice are addressed only due to the existence of balanced climate finance. Now, the developed nations which have historically contributed the most in global greenhouse emissions are expected to come to the fore and offer financial assistance, while the developing countries are expected to focus on sustainable growth and climate resilience. The promises committed under the Copenhagen Accord and echoed in Paris Agreement demanded that the developed nations keep arranging $100 billion every year, reinstating the principle of accountability and equity. The objective has not been achieved yet. It is still considered as critical benchmark in the negotiation for global climate. Broadly, climate finance can be categorized in multiple ways based on its source, purpose, flow and instrument type. Public climate finance includes government allocations, development bank funding, multilateral climate funds like Green Climate Fund and bilateral assistance. Private climate finance include investments from corporations, financial institutions, green bonds, impact investors and renewable energy companies. Financial flows may be domestic, international, bilateral or multilateral, while instruments include grants, soft loans, equity, guarantees, carbon market mechanism and green bonds. By supporting both mitigation and adaptation initiative, climate finance strengthens the global response to climate change. Mitigation finance promotes renewable energy, sustainable transport, energy efficiency, afforestation, and low carbon technology. Adaptation finance, on the other hand, builds resilience through climate smart agriculture, water security, disaster early warning system, climate proof infrastructure, coastal protection, and community based adaptation program. Together, these financial flows ensure that climate solutions are inclusive, equitable, and future focused, enabling countries to safeguard their people, economy, and environment from escalating climate threats. Now, let me convince you the need for climate finance. Developing countries require trillions of dollars for climate transitions. Adaptation financing is far below the needs despite rising climate risk. Many countries face structural economic limitations, debt pressure, and lack technological capacity. So let me explain to you the types of climate finance. It is based on sources. The first categorization is public climate finance. What is public climate finance? It is provided by government and multilateral agencies. It includes grant, concessional loan, and bilateral assistance. Major providers of public funds are GEF, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, Asian Development Bank, and bilateral aid. The other categorization based on the source is private climate finance. What is private climate finance? Investment from corporations, banks, institutional investors, and industry. This includes green bonds, equity investment, renewable energy financing. This is critical for large scale mitigation. Now, another categorization is based on the purpose. And in this regard, the first is mitigation finance. What is mitigation finance? It supports reducing emissions and transitioning towards low carbon economies. Activities include renewable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable transport, clean fuel, carbon capture, and forest conservation. The second categorization is adaptation finance. Adaptation finance helps societies adjust to climate impact, supports resilient agriculture, water management, early warning system, climate proof infrastructure, health system strengthening, etc. The third categorization is cross-cutting finance. This applies to projects addressing both mitigation and adaptation simultaneously. For example, sustainable forestry, urban climate resilience, climate smart agriculture. Now, I would like to present you the third categorization, which is based on the flow. The first subcategorization under based on the flow is bilateral finance. What is it? It is a direct funding between two countries, for example, Japan's GICA and Germany's GIZ. The multilateral finance, this is pooled global funds like Global Climate Fund, Global Environmental Fund, Adaptation Fund, etc. The third categorization is domestic finance. National budgets, taxes, carbon markets, and national development banks. And the fourth categorization is local finance. Community level funds, municipal budgets, decentralized finances. Now, the fourth categorization is based on the instrument. There are different types, such as the first one is grant. These are non-repayable funds, crucial for adaptation, especially in least developed countries. The second is concessional loans, low interest loans with long repayment period. The third is equity instruments, investments in projects with expected return. The fourth is guarantees and risk mitigation tool. This reduces investment risk and attract private capital. The fifth is the carbon markets. Carbon credit allows emission trading under regulated or volunteer systems. You might have heard of green bonds. The next categorization is green bonds and sustainable finance instruments. What are these? These are bonds issued exclusively for climate and environmental projects. Then loss and damage funding. It's a newly evolving mechanism for irreversible impacts of climate change. So these were the different categorization of climate funds, and after describing you the structure, the need and different types of climate fund,